So, yep, the Ford Flex, after quite a few years of being in the market, in fact, I had thought it already had been canceled, but I was mistaken, has finally been canceled. Um, and I know it's not like we're losing a big vehicle or anything like that, but it is notable. Some people really like the Flex. It was very kind of polar in its design. Some people really like it, some people really hate it, but that is how literally fucking everything goes. So, won't focus on that too much, but it is kind of interesting because it was one that, I don't know, a lot of things that I feel like people say they really like or really hate, I feel like there's not as many. It usually leans toward one way, like the Camaro. A lot of people didn't like that. I mean, I could say I liked it, and then you could say some people like it, some people don't. I feel like more people probably didn't like this one because of how large and square it was, but and also not being full like SUV ride height like a Suburban or Tahoe or something like that. But I've been in a few. They're perfectly nice vehicles and things like that, and I would see a couple on the road. Maybe not as many as say an Explorer or an Edge or something like that, or what is it now? The Escape. Uh, but it was still, I mean, you see them around. Uh, Now, what I found very interesting about all this is, so first of all, they were all being made out of Canada, and that branch is going to stop, or that factory is going to stop making the Flex and going to continue making the Escape and the Lincoln Nautilus. So that factory is going to be basically just for that, and it was making the Ford Flex and the MKT or MXT, the Lincoln variant kind of it, or the same one that ran on the same basic structure as the Flex. But that one's also going to be done as well. It's just more people would know the Flex by name and things like that. So those are done. 450 people are being laid off, which is rough. As always, layoffs are never great, especially for the person getting laid off. But it's kind of to be expected, especially when you look at the numbers of, apparently the average sales for the Ford Flex over the last several years have been 29,000 units for the year. Now that's fucking wild. I said fuck twice this video, 3 times. What's so wild about that is last quarter, Mustang sold 27,000 units, or thereabouts. That was in a quarter. That was in 3 months of a year. Who knows how? I mean, sadly, I didn't look it up. But how many F-150s do they sell? How many Explorers do they sell? How many? I mean, the Fusion's not great, but how many of those do they sell? I mean, if Mustang is a toy car. That is not a family's first buy. That is someone who has money, a family that already has money, a young person that got a good job and things like that. They're able to get a Mustang. They're not, especially new ones. They're not everyday vehicles. A brand new Mustang out the gate. Of course, base models are more affordable, but for kids in college, kids getting out of high school, things like that, those aren't as affordable. I'm not saying the Flex is, but regardless, once those people do get good jobs and stuff like that, have families, they go for something more like the Flex first, then Mustang later, unless you're living alone or making enough money and things like that, get lucky. So, but 29,000 a year, I didn't realize it was doing that bad, and then I thought about it, I thought about it and went, well, I do see a couple, but definitely not as many as the others. I didn't know it was still being made, and I like to think of myself as someone that knows a decent amount of the current market and what's going on. I had no idea it was still being made. I thought it was cut years ago or was cut last year when they got rid of the Focus and the Fiesta in America, which I think they might still be making, or they're supposed to also get rid of the Taurus, but that's still being made for 2019, so I don't know. But yep, so no more Ford Flex, but if you're interested in buying one, I doubt that they held their value that well already, because it wasn't on a truck frame or anything. It didn't have a crazy motor that came with it. I mean, there was nothing special besides it being decent for cargo. Again, they weren't bad vehicles. I've driven a couple, I've been inside a couple, I've detailed a few, things like that. They're fine. They're not much different than your average Ford SUV. It just had 3-row and could fit 7 people. And you could fold everything down and have a bunch of room. So we knew it was basically just a long hatchback, or could even go as far as to say a big wagon, something like that. I mean, I guess if the Outback can be called a wagon, then this can be called a wagon. So I don't know, but no more Ford Flex. 450 people laid off, which is rough. But if you were on the Ford Flex line, you may have already should have been looking for something else to begin with. So that's all on that topic. And technically, the factory, it's not like, oh my god, they're cutting half their staff. No, the factory had 4,100 hourly employees and lost 450, so that's 3,750 left. No, 3,650, sorry. And that's not also including, I mean, obviously it sucks that payroll employees get cut and whatnot, and not higher up. But when you're on the bottom of the totem pole, you're the first to go, so it makes sense. So, like at a dealership, cuts would start with either salesmen or lot attendants and things, replaceable units. And for a factory and for a company that's trying to make money, we're all replaceable. It sucks to think about, but unless you're doing a phenomenal job, and maybe the people that were get switched to other departments, but that's what happens. It is business at the end of the day. However, it will be really interesting to see if Ford replaces it with something in the next month, or if it's being replaced, maybe replaced with the Mustang-inspired electric SUV, or something entirely regardless, or maybe they're just shrinking down their line. They do have a goal to, Ford apparently does have a goal to reimagine 75% of its current catalog of vehicles. I don't know if that necessarily includes Lincoln. I bet it does, but even then, we're just getting started. And this is all supposed to happen by 2020. So, very interesting news. We'll definitely have to keep a look on an eye on Ford and see what happens next. As always, like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.